This is Donna Valente, and I am a sales performance and sales leadership coach. And here you are on That Sales Show. And today we have a topic that is on the forefront of everybody's mind, and that is selling to the CIO. We've all been in situations where we've had to have executive engagement at one point or the other, and everybody flips out because they're like, oh my God, when is it appropriate? And I need to get buy-in from the executives, and you're getting all this pressure from your management team. Did you engage it? Did you get an executive sponsor? So today I brought with me a special guest, David Silverstein, and David has been in enterprise, business-to-business enterprise sales for a very long time. I don't want to say 20 years because I don't want to date him, but he's been working with companies like Sun Microsystems / Oracle. He was a partner at InSource, and now he's the vice president of sales for Eplus, and we'll let him tell you a little bit about those businesses. But I want to introduce David, and thank you so much for coming today.
Donna, thank you for having me. I'm pumped up, never been in front of a camera before, so it's very exciting.
Just keep your eye on the money.
I will.
So,
absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
This is a great topic. I think you and I did this one time with the Enterprise Sales Forum when we were hosting this event. And it really is something that people struggle with because a lot of sales reps don't have, or they don't feel like they have the business acumen to sit down and talk to a CEO and a CIO. And furthermore, they don't even know how to start the conversation.
Right.
So one of the things that I love about you is that you've leaned into your relationships to identify, when is the appropriate time? Didn't you, David is actually this author of a blog called Selling to the CIO.
Yep.
And I think one of the articles that you wrote was about, what do CIOs want from a sales rep? And didn't you do like some kind of survey?
Yeah, I mean, they don't like to be bothered that much is what it comes down to, right? CIOs are an interesting breed. Listen, they put their pants on in the morning just like everybody else. They're people, they're fathers, and they join boards, and they're in the community. So it's all about, and what it all boils down to, and we'll talk more about this, is the relationship aspect, right? You got to figure out, what makes them tick. You got to figure out what they're interested in the community. So if you look at their LinkedIn profile and they're a member of a board, go join that board or go join that organization. Get to know them that way versus making a phone call and trying to get on their schedule, which is nearly impossible unless you know somebody who's referred you to that person.
So this kind of idea of prospecting to the CIO for your first call, discovery call, is really out the window.
It doesn't work. These admins, they all have these admins, especially if it's a decent-sized company. Their admins are perfect at deflections, right? So, I've made a living of trying to befriend the admins. That's another tip that we can talk about as well. But the CIO, you'll never get a meeting with the CIO unless it comes from a referral or from some kind of personal relationship, unless they really are getting a message from the board that you really have to solve this issue. Security is a big topic now, so they're all interested in that. But CIOs, for the most part, they're business folks now. They're not IT folks. They're not making those IT decisions. They're hiring a staff that they depend on, right? They may sign the PO that is over $100,000, but they're going to entrust their team. So you want to get to know that CEO so they can be your sponsor within the account to get you that first introduction.
Yeah.
That's
so the same thing for CEOs and CIOs.
Absolutely.
Same
the whole C-suite, I think, is that way, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
So you're a rep, right?
Yeah.
And you have, I don't know, let's say you have top 100 accounts that you have to do for the quarter.
Yeah.
Right? So you know that you need to do, everybody's like, oh, you got to go top-down approach with sales. You got to start with that. So how do you get the person who is a champion or who's a part of the buying committee to introduce you to the CEO? How do you get them to give you executive engagement?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the people that work for the C-suite too, they're intimidated by them internally, right? They don't want to have to deal with them as well, right? Yeah. So I work with my reps kind of I'll go top down because I have that, that title. You go this way, right? So we'll meet in the middle somewhere. So let's divide and conquer the account when we're really trying to put an effort in to get into the decision makers. So, you got to build that champion with internally, right? Whether it's a director or whether it's just somebody who wants to buy the technology, who likes it, who's toying around with it. You got to get that momentum, right? You don't need to call the CIO for a long, long time. You may never even have to deal with the CIO, right? They're not really in these decisions, especially if they're smaller dollar amounts. I've noticed that 100K or higher in some firms, 500K or higher, 1 million or higher, sometimes the CIO will need sign off, and then we'll start questioning the people under them. But for the most part, VPs and CIOs, you don't need to mess with them sometimes, right? So, I always have the reps build the relationship here, start stepping stones, build the relationship with the IT director, right? Start there, make them juiced up about the product that you're trying to sell, and let me kind of build the relationship from the top down, and I'll find out what their interests are. There's a Tech Impact is a board that I'm on. It provides technology guidance to nonprofits. A lot of the CIO community within the tri-state area is involved in that. So I made a decision about 10 years ago. Let me get, it's not the sole reason I got involved, but let me get involved because I can meet these guys on a different level, get to know them, work on the board with them, make some friendships, break some bread with them. And then when I need that favor, I can place a call to them. And
right.
they're not intimidated by that. Right. Oh, David, we've known you for a long time. We're glad to help. This is who you need to get to.
Yeah.
And once they send that email or introduction to the IT director or whoever else it is, that's when you have your in. That's how you take advantage of those relationships.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back from our break. Because I really am curious about leveraging the relationships at the C-level.
Yep.
And how you have, it sounds like that what you were saying is that in your strategy, your win strategy is you have your reps doing the I'm not going to say below the power line,
yep.
because they're pretty much still helping to make the decision.
Yep.
But you actually say, I'm going to introduce myself to your senior people, let them know that we're working together.
Yep. I help them divide and conquer.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great. Okay, folks, so we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about how to build relationships at the C-level. Thank you so much.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales.
Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way. Fast Signs designed new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
I'm Casey Price, host of a brand new show on RVN TV called Justice for All. Tune in every Tuesday at 1 p.m. as some of South Jersey's amazing attorneys share their stories and important legal information that could affect you and the people you love. Remember, that's in Justice for All, every Tuesday at 1 p.m., only on RVN TV.
Is your business growing and now you need a new and bigger building? Has your organization outgrown their facility and now it's time to expand? Do your hobbies require the need for more space? If you're paying rent, but now you want the advantages of owning, the prospect of financing, construction, and on-time completion may seem out of your reach. General Steel Corporation has the answer. A pre-engineered steel building from the General will not only look great and satisfy almost any need, but you'll save time and money. Our team will help you create your building and deliver it to your location. We offer design services to help you present your concept to board members, bankers, or for fundraising. And the General can even help with financing. General Steel is a name you know, with quality backed by a 50-year structural warranty. Call today and find out how easy it is to have the building you want. You may even save up to $20,000 with rebates. If you need space, you need the General.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to That Sales Show with Coach Donna V and David Silverstein. And one of the things that I forgot to do was ask David to give us a little bit of his background and why he got into sales and how he got into sales and how did he know he was going to be good at it. So, David, why don't you tell me your story?
I've been waiting for that
your
question.
Inception
I've
story.
been waiting for that question, Donna. I've thought about it all last week. So thank you for the opportunity. So
Sorry.
Let's see. Growing up, I lived next to a gentleman who had a candy truck. Right, so he sold candy to like all the local stores and whatever it was, right? So I went into his truck one day. He's like, "Hey, you want anything?" He used to always let my brother and I come into the truck and pick out a piece of candy, whatever it is. Back in the day, it was Nihilators and whatever those things are. And so I said, "You know what? Can I buy a box? Because I want to take it to school." I think at the time I was probably in 7th grade or something like that. I want to buy a box and I'm going to go take it and resell it. So what I did is I bought a box of I can't remember what the name were.
Pez.
Maybe it was Pez. I don't know what the name of it was at that time, but some kind of old candy that you can get some of those stores that sell the old stuff now. And I took a box and I started, I marked it up like a quarter or whatever. I bought it for a quarter, sold it for a quarter, bought it for 50 cents, sold it for $1. So I got such a high from doing that, like making the sale, it's like that excited me. So I guess and then my father was in the shoe business, my mother sold antiques, my brother was always selling something, so I guess salesmanship was in my blood, and I got a high from making the sale, right? And then making people happy, and then having the conversation. So to me, sales has gotten a bad rap in the past, but I think to me it's the best job in the world, right?
Yeah.
You get to make your own hours. People don't bother you if you're making your goal. You can go to your kid's field hockey game or soccer game. You're kind of your own CEO of your territory, right? So it's always been a great job. And you know what? You can make a good living from it, right? I have a rep
so you recognized supply and demand as a kid. You were like, well, I'm giving them something they need.
And I always liked interacting with people, right?
Yeah.
It's, I like talking to people, and it was just always exciting to me making that sale, right? Listen, I took a lot of beatdowns, don't get me wrong.
So now you go from, kindergarten, entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah. Seventh grade, and then actually my first job out of college, I was a political science major at Temple. I grew up in Florida, came up here to go to school at Temple. And then, my first job out of college was actually working at a computer store, selling computers, sort of like a Best Buy, Geek
Radio
Squad.
Shack.
It was a family-owned store called Computerware. I worked at a store in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, selling 486s, right, with 2 megs of RAM and 250 meg hard drives and Apple computers. And that's kind of got me into the technology sales. Then from there, I had a great run at Sun Microsystems. And that was a well-known company at the time, $10 billion company, so I kind of sold to the whole Northeast. And as these big technology companies get bigger, your territory shrinks. And then ended up really primarily in the Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware patch for most of my career. But was always able to have my customers follow me because I was able to build those relationships. People buy from people they trust and they like. That's really what it comes down to, right? If you have a decent product, they want to see you be successful, right? So if they can find a way to fit it into their company, they're going to make it happen for you. So I've been fortunate enough to build those relationships and have my account base really follow my base. And the beautiful thing about it is that when I first started selling at a young age, like in my early 20s, those people were, kind of the architects and the directors. And now they're the CIOs, they're the VPs of ITs, And so I've been able to follow them through my career, which has been terrific.
Yeah. So there's two things there that I'm hearing that I want to kind of dig down into a little bit. Today, what I see younger sales reps, and I get to say that because I'm a little older.
Yeah, we're getting marinated, me and you, Donna, right? Kind of
Thank
sucks.
God for vodka.
Used to be the youngest guy in the room. Now I'm the oldest. It's kind of sad.
Still
but it's
good
okay.
looking though.
Yeah.
So I see that in my coaching work that reps struggle a little bit with that ability to build relationships outside the work environment.
Yes.
So they have trouble with authenticity and actually asking for referrals or favors to some people that are going to be in the sales cycle. So how did you tap into knowing that you were strong at the relationship building piece? Like, what separates you from people liking you? What are you doing?
It's a good question because I know this much about technology. I know enough to be dangerous. I am the furthest thing. Anybody who knows me in my career is, I like David, right? We buy from him because he has a good personality and he has a credit card, right?
Yeah.
And I embrace that, right? Because you got to know enough to talk intelligently about your product, right? Sales has evolved, right? You got to be knowledgeable enough to have that initial conversation, right? Then you have all these technical people around you that can help move the sale forward and really pre-sales engineers, overlays, domain experts, whatever it is. So I knew that I lacked that piece of just technical acumen, so I had to work on the business and social acumen piece of it, and just figure out a way, like when I walked into an office, just look around, right? See what I could connect with, right? Whether they were an Eagles fan or a Steelers fan, or they had a couple girls, I had 2 girls, and kids, and soccer pitchers. So I was always able to pick out something around the room, or do some homework about the person. Now you have Facebook and LinkedIn, and I try to connect with my customers so I can see socially what they're doing, when their birthday is. You see on Facebook, I see my customers. I always take the time to send them a personal text message on their birthday. I always wish them a happy Father's Day. Happy Thanksgiving. There's like 4 holidays a year that everybody now is like, oh, David, I didn't get your, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I forgot. They expect
Yeah.
my text, right? So I've always done a good job of finding a way just to take the sales element out of it and just become human to these folks. And I tell the reps all the time, this is a marathon. You can't expect to go sell something right away. Like, these people have relationships they've had. You join a new company, you want to get to your relationship, but they have other relationships. So you got to wait for your chance. You got to stick around. You got to wait for the other vendor to mess up so you get your opportunity. But if you become too salesy, you'll lose your opportunity. So find a way, like I said before, to become involved in some kind of charity work that the person you're trying to get to is involved with. Join a board that they're involved in. Get a connection that way instead of trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
Like, the sale will come at some point, but just work on building the relationship and become a friend, a trusted person, somebody they like to hang out with. That's kind of how I've been able to differentiate myself all these years.
I kind of feel like, that has been turned on its head for some reason. We've somewhere along the line, it's like, don't worry about the pictures. Like, they don't care about that. You have 5 seconds to talk to these people. And I have a course that's empathy as a secret sauce to selling. And I think people need to really understand that, it's hurry up and get your numbers closed for the quarter,
listen,
but you really have to build out that relationship.
Hopefully you get a manager who understands that journey, right?
Yes.
They need to understand that you know what? I've had many sales managers, just ask them for the PO. I say to them, you know what? You ask them for the PO. I've spent all 10 years of my career building trust for this guy. I'm not going to ask him because you need a PO for the end of the quarter. He's going to do it when he's ready. And that's how I've been able to sustain my relationships, not always cramming and asking for the sale.
Yeah.
That's how you have to do it.
So folks, there you hear it. David's courage backing up against management to stop asking for the PO. So
that's one of the blogs.
So we're going to go on a commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about David's selling to the CIO blog and some of the things he's learned. Thank you. Stay tuned.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to That Sales Show with Coach Donna V and David Silverstein. This segment, we're going to talk a little bit about what inspired David to write Selling to the CIO. I know it saves a lot of us when we're getting ready to go into an account and we need a little refresher, but why don't you share with us what inspired you there?
All right, Donna, I can do that for you. Thank you. This is the last segment. I'm kind of bummed out. I'm having a little fun here.
I know we need like an hour.
I need 2 hours, So,
Yeah.
But, anyway, I've built some relationships with some CIOs in my career, right? We've become friends. So I was actually with one, I don't know, this is probably 10 years ago now, before I started the blog. And he was kind of sharing with me a voicemail that he gotten from a rep. And literally it was a 2-minute voicemail that he recorded it and he thought it was entertaining. He shared it with his people. Then that person sent him a LinkedIn request 2 seconds later. Mm-hmm. Then they called his admin, right, to try to get it. Then they called him the next day and said, hey, my vice president is in town. We'd love to set up a 5-minute meeting with you, right? So all these tactics, which these CIOs and their admins know about, it's comical. So I said, man, we should really, let's take your experience, the CIO buddy of mine, and let's start something. Let's try to educate sales reps, because he was getting, he gets calls every day, right? There's some way, somehow, somebody's trying to get to him. Mm-hmm. So that's how kind of the blog initially evolved, and now we're turning that blog into a book. So, what I did is that I solicited, at the time, 5 CIOs that I had in my network, and I kind of went to them and said, I hate to say this, tell me what you hate about salespeople, right? What annoys you the most? And they'll talk all day long about that, right? So then I started using it as a tool when I went on sales calls, right? I would meet with the CIO or VP of IT or somebody who gets all these calls.
Oh, great.
And even if they didn't want my product, which, sometimes you need to understand that maybe your product doesn't fit, right? Move on. It's hard to do that for sales reps sometimes. But I would then ask the question, hey, by the way, I write this blog. I would love your input. And then you would just see them light up like, oh, man, I would love to talk to you about that. I had this sales rep the other day who just annoyed the crap out of me, and let me tell you about it. So I'd say, well, you mind if can you put that into a couple paragraphs for me? I'll publish it in the blog, and it kind of took off from there. So I started using it as almost a disarming tool, actually, as well. Like when I go into meet a CIO, it's a way for me not to be trying to sell them something and saying, hey, give me a story about what you couldn't stand about a sales rep. And I also tap in sometimes, from the sales rep perspective and say, if I'm going into a meeting and you gave me an hour of your time and you're sitting there on your phone the whole time, Mr. CIO, that's disrespectful, right? Give me the time of day that, I set this appointment up. It sometimes takes 3 months to get a meeting with this guys. Give me the time. Don't be on your phone texting or being, have to walk out of the meeting. That annoys me. So it's got to work both ways,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, one of the things that I think is challenging for people is, whoa, we got 15 minutes with the CEO and our CIO, and you really have to make impact right away. Go in there knowing their business.
That's true.
But there's some nuances about their business that we're not going to know.
That's true.
If we are reading everything.
Yeah.
There's still dynamics in the business. So what I see as the challenge is you're wanting to build that empathy quickly to get to be trusted.
Yep.
And you're using, the idea that, listen, we understand you get pitched all the time and you ingratiate them and stuff like that. But for most sales reps who aren't thinking like that yet, it is also so that there needs to be a fair exchange. That person needs to know, listen, I'm here to have you be present fully with me so I can understand a little bit more about what your current state of business is as you see it and what your future vision is for it. And how do you balance that in that short amount of time?
Going back to what you said before, there's no reason not to be prepared now, especially when you're going to talk to a public company, right? If you read their 10K or the annual report, all their initiatives are laid out, what they did last year, what their go-forward strategy is. And as I said before, the CIOs are business guys now, right? They have to contribute to the bottom line. That's part of their job, right? And they'll be gone. That's why the tenure of a CIO, it used to be 18 months. I think it's risen almost to 3 years now, which is terrific for them. But you need to know their business, right? You can't waste their time. If you have that 10 minutes, they need to know that you spent the time and prepared for the meeting, right? Because there's nothing more, and this is sales 101, and I think a lot of reps have gotten better at this. But make sure you do your homework. Spend the time the night before, do your homework, and make sure that you have something tangible to say.
I have 160 calls to make a day. How am I going to do that research? What do you tell your reps to that?
Well, listen, I tell them don't boil the ocean, right? Let's concentrate on 10, right? It's the old 80-20 rule, right? You're going to get 80% of your business out of 20% of your customers, right? So let's work on making the bigger customers bigger, right? And let's get some home runs and some triples. You need the singles along the way, but let's work on making those accounts that we're already in, we're already somewhat a trusted advisor, and let's grow those out, right? So that's the opportunity for those reps. So don't try to do, I know sales leadership's pushing down on you. You got to do this, and like I said before, the good ones will get it. The good ones will let you marinate the situation and take the time and do the right things. And I've hired a couple reps recently, and I said, listen, I'm not going to really expect anything out of you for 6 months. I know this is going to take some time, right? They have relationships. They already buy.
Are they home sitting like this, drinking coffee?
No, they might be. And if I find out, they won't be around very long. But I always tell my reps, you should have a lunch every day on your calendar, even if it's with somebody that's in your network that can help you get to somebody. If I look on your calendar and you're not out doing something, I don't need you, right? You just get out there. Everybody wants to eat. Everybody can have some breakfast. If they like you, they'll take 10 minutes of your time, and this is a networking game, right? This is what it's all about.
One of the things that you had mentioned to me this was like last year, is that reference selling. asking people that you've already done business with that are
Sure.
at that same
Yeah.
level, referring them to
It's like-
somebody else in an organization to give you that introduction, to get you maybe that cup of coffee that you've been having trouble
Absolutely.
to get.
It's like your insurance guy. Before he leaves, he always asks, hey, do you have 3 people that you can maybe refer me to, right?
Yeah.
I get the question all the time from my insurance guy or whoever it might be. So it's the same thing. Let's talk to that trusted advisor, because the referral is the easiest way to get in.
Yeah.
Say, Mr. CIO, who I've spent a lot of time, we built this relationship, but I see that you're linked into John Doe over here at ABC Company. Would you mind making an introduction for me? Absolutely, right? That is the #1 way to get in. Besides doing the work yourself and getting on the boards, as I mentioned before, and building those relationships yourself, the referral piece is the only way you're going to get in. These CIOs, admins, they have it down to a science. They get bombarded. You got to be creative. You got to use your network
Yep.
and work on your network. I tell my daughter who's 20, who's going to be a junior in college next year, get your LinkedIn profile up. Start
Yeah.
networking now.
Yeah.
Now is the time.
Yeah.
This, unfortunately or fortunately, is a world that it's a who you know world,
Yeah,
right? Build the relationships.
And David is like the Kevin Bacon of sales.
Oh.
6 degrees of separation.
Just
Everybody
because-
knows him. You can be in a Wawa, like in some like upstate Pennsylvania random place.
That's because I'm getting old.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, I've been around a long time.
So, lightning rod question.
Oh, I don't like those.
You're going to have it.
Okay.
Give me a book that you've read over the past 3 years.
Oh,
that really
God, I'm
has
so bad
inspired
at
you.
titles,
Oh.
Don. I read so many sales books. You know what I'm reading right now is Elon Musk's biography. I'm a big biography guy. This guy, I'm halfway in. He's a tyrant, but he's just a smart thinker. I don't necessarily, a lot of books I read, I learn what not to do. Listen, the guy's
Yeah, yeah.
a multi-billionaire, but his people that work for him don't like him,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure there's some that do, but
Yeah, yeah.
so I try to take nibbles from that, like, what don't I want to do, right? What should I, a lot of times that will make me a better sales leader, right?
Great.
So I read a lot of books, and you get little tidbits out of them, but it's a lot of the stuff I read, like, I'm not going to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's...
So we have to wrap up, but I do want to tell you to let the audience know how they can read
Yeah,
your
I
blog.
mean, LinkedIn, obviously, it's David Silverstein. You can just find me there, or sellingtothecio.com. All one is the blog, and it's, as I said, we're turning it into a book, which should be out in hopefully about 6 months. So we're
Awesome.
excited, and
look forward to it.
Yeah,
I want an
awesome.
autographed copy.
Yeah, you got it,
All
Donna.
right,
Thank you.
so
Thanks
much.
for having
Thank
me.
you, everybody, for visiting today. And next week we're off, but the following week we have some great guests. So stay tuned and have a great holiday weekend.